The mayor of Johannesburg calling it, Kabelo Gwamanda, resigning officially after weeks of public pressure. In some ways, many people will tell you that it was inevitable given just the amount of voices or the number of people who had started speaking out about his tenure. On the one hand, people will have you convinced that hopefully this will mark a change in the tide for the city, which has had very clear marks of deterioration. On the other, it signals to others that this is yet another symbol of instability in Johannesburg. I think we're on mayor number 8 now in the past few years alone. So there's certainly going to be a lot of reaction to what takes place coming forward. Incidentally, there's been a statement from the ANC. They said to hold a media briefing on their own at around 2 o'clock this afternoon to explain from their own vantage point what the way forward looks like. Speculation being rife that Dada Morero, who is an ANC councillor in the city of Johannesburg, he's likely to step in. He did have a short stint, if memory serves, wearing the mayoral chains, but that changed briefly because of the machinations within council, pointing to, as I mentioned, that instability that seems to really permeate through local government, especially the metros in and around Johannesburg. It's a big moment. We're not quite clear when there's going to be any kind of announcement around who will replace Kabelo Gwamanda. Al Jamaa had come out to say that they haven't heard any kind of arrangement, as it were, to have him replaced, but are willing to take their marching orders from this government of local unity, as it's being described, to try and get a way forward. Kabelo Gwamanda didn't have a long stint, however, because there's been such a revolving door, he is among the longest serving mayors, at least in recent history, since we started having these coalition arrangements in local government. And there's going to be all manner of conversations, I imagine, about the contribution he's been able to make to the city of Johannesburg, or the lack thereof, and whether or not the person who succeeds him will be able to take the province forward in a context where this is already being seen in some ways as a poisoned chalice, this particular mayoral position. But let's in fact jump into our reaction, kick things off with OUTA's Duvenhage, who's been amongst the people who've been quite vocal when it comes to the leadership in the city of Johannesburg. And Wayne joining us now via our video link at short notice, by the way, Wayne, so thanks very much indeed for making time. Your initial response, as I mentioned, you're among the people who've called for this to take place. What should happen next?
Yeah, look, very welcome. Long overdue, as we know. We've had a number of mayors. I think what happens next should be that we don't have more of the same. What we want is leadership now, leadership with the vision to inspire the residents of Johannesburg to get behind an executive mayor. An executive mayor is a very important role in fixing the city. It has gone backwards for far too long. There's a lot of infrastructure improvements, finance management, finance hygiene that is required. And we need a leader that is going to engage with civil society, engage with the communities, so that together we can fix the city. It'll never be left up to the hands of the politicians or the administration themselves. We've got to do this together and collectively. But yeah, we welcome the move by Mayor, or the ex-mayor Gwamanda, to leave office.
Of course, Kabelo Gwamanda didn't run the city alone. What's your response to people who are suggesting that all we're doing is shifting the decks on a sinking Titanic, and this being unlikely to result in any material change?
Well, it's a very good point, and we've also said that, we've got to replace the leadership and not just, as you say, move people from one position to another. So Dada Morero is not our favorite candidate. He's been part of the problem. And we've always said that, you cannot leave people in charge of the solution who are part of the problem in the first place. We really need the politicians to apply their minds now. This is an 80+ billion rand city. Imagine the type of person that's going to run a business that is worth 80 billion rand a year in turnover. It needs astute financial management. It needs accountability. It needs somebody to take the reins and deal with the rot that has been setting in for far too long now. And there are a lot of people that have been implicated in so many things that have gone wrong, and yet they still hold their positions in office. We've got to deal with the boards that sit on city power, pick it up, city water and so forth, because they've also let the city down. These multiple businesses that are running away with the maladministration that permeates those organizations, they also need to be dealt with. So it's a multi-pronged approach. It needs strong leadership, visionary leadership, and a good team around it. We cannot see the current people that fill these MEC positions right now, and Dada Marera being one of them, as part of the solution.
Yeah, you know, over the years, when you and I have heard many a mayoral speech, I can already, I don't know, sometimes even guess what the initial statements of whoever the successor is are going to be, littered with promises, I imagine. If you had things your way, what would be the priority of whoever succeeds Kabelo Gwamanda in a context where we really are spoiled for choice around which of the issues in the city to address?
Well, I think it comes down to financial management. You know, we're borrowing money. We're putting this city into more debt. We first need to look at what we call a zero-based budgeting approach. Look at the current contracts that we have. Look at the suppliers and see if we can clean house. And in any business that hits the wall from a financial point of view, you look at your expenses. You look at where you are bloated, where you are wasting money. That's the first part. And then to deal with each business unit that the city relies on to provide the services to its people. And here we believe that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So look, it's multifaceted, multi-pronged. There's no silver bullet here, but you need financial hygiene, and you need to be extremely astute in this space, and to hold people to account for the mismanagement of the finances. The properties, the Joburg Property Company is one such entity that needs a clean out. There were boards there that were getting on top of it, and they were removed by the political masters right now who are in place so that they could protect people in those positions. That cannot happen going forward. We need a mayor that has got the moral courage to stand up and say, I'll take this position on one condition, that if I clean up and tackle corruption, that I have the support of the political powers, and that they won't be messed around.
OUTA's Wayne Duvenhage, we appreciate you speaking to us at short notice in response to this breaking news. For now, thanks very much indeed. Once again, Wayne Duvenhage is part of the organization Undoing Tax Abuse, and that organization is part of a whole host of other bodies who had called for Kabelo Gwamanda to resign, given their take on how the city of Johannesburg is faring.